And welcome to the fourth WordPress Meetup Organizers Roundtable. Oh, that's a mouthful. We need to come up with a better name. Think about it. Maybe by the end of this session of four, we'll have actually a name for this that's not that long, and we can put it in a hashtag or something like that. So, yes, I'm here to welcome you to the fourth of our March series of Meetup Organizers Roundtables. My name is Birgit Pauli-Haack, and I will be your MC or so for the next hour. I'm a deputy of the WordPress Global Community Team and a Meetup Organizers in Southwest Florida. I have with me today Kathy Drewien from Meetup Atlanta, Georgia, Jim True from the Meetup in Tampa and St. Petersburg, and Ulrich from Bern in Switzerland. So the goal of these video chats is to give WordPress Meetup organizers around the world a forum to discuss ideas and challenges that arise while organizing those meetups, and to get answers of questions and just to hang out and chat with fellow organizers. We are recording this chat as a resource to those organizers who can't be with us in person today, and they will be available on YouTube. All the links are actually on the Make blog post where the roundtables were announced. I added each session to it with a link to the YouTube space. So let's go around. So today's topic is how to find organizers, or how did you find co-organizers? But let's go around the room and introduce yourself by your name, where you're located, and the topic would be for this, do you have a birthday party planned, a WordPress Meetup birthday party? And we can certainly talk about this a little bit. If you don't have planned, maybe find someone too. And it gives us right to gets us right into the topic of how to find co-organizers if you are not the one planning things as a party, something like a party. So who wants to start? Ulrich?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
My name's Ulrich. I'm from Bern. I help organize the meetup there. We don't actually have a meetup plan for the birthday. Part of the reason is that I'm going to be in Belfast for their WordCamp, which is on the same weekend. And we haven't really done one in the past, and we normally have enough meetups anyway during the week and all that, so we might leave this one out this time.
All right. Okay. Kathy? Do you need to unmute yourself? Yes.
Yeah, my fingers weren't fast enough on the fly there. I'm Kathy Drewien. I'm from the Atlanta area, which has lots and lots of meetups around the metro area. Specifically, I'm located in the suburb of Marietta. A birthday party intrigues me, but I don't want to be the host. I like being the entertainer at parties. So perhaps we can talk that up in our community, and somebody else will take the lead.
Right. Jim?
Okay, I am Jim True. I am the meetup organizer for St. Petersburg. We have a handful of co-organizers that actually they're handling like the other meetups across Tampa Bay area. And no, we do not have a plan for the birthday party for WordPress, but I will put it out on our Slack chat for Tampa Bay WordPress Slack and see if anyone bites.
Yeah, and well, thank you. Yeah, I have had a moment when I saw the blog post by Andrea Middleton about the birthday party and that you can get swag. So the birthday party is on May 27th. No, the birthday 15-year anniversary is on May 27th. 2018, and parties around that time can be scheduled on Meetup, and if you schedule one, then you can also fill out a form and request a special anniversary celebration swag. I had the idea, well, you know, we are in Naples, we could just meet at the pier with bring your own beverage and bring your own sandwich or something like that and have a group photo from the pier down to the group. But then I got some flack from my other co-organizers who said, well, shouldn't we do this in Fort Myers? And guess what? There's a Fort Myers beach. Let's do it there. So we'll see what we have a meeting for this week to kind of see if it works out. So David, Ulrich, there's no David, there's an Ulrich. Ulrich, you said before that you have co-organizers. How did you find them?
So I think it was for me, it was a big priority when I started at the Meetup that I had other people helping me. And I'd previously seen that sometimes when you're the only person organizing it, everyone expects you to organize it, and it becomes a bit more difficult for other people to join in. And so I think every time we had the Meetup, I was always mentioning it to people, oh, would you be willing to help me out with a few things? I think one of the other things was that my written German is not always that great. And so I always needed someone to help me look through the text that I'd written for the Meetup. And so I had a few people in the Meetup who were helping me out like that. And so it started with small little tasks, helping me with this or that. I mean, slowly, I think once I was going abroad for a period of time and asked around a few friends, and people were joining if they were willing to take it over and continue it while I was away. And so one of them has been doing it recently, or since then, really, helping me out and has taken off the responsibility.
Ulrich, were most of your Meetup co-organizers also co-organizers for the WordCamp, or was it like vice versa? So we haven't had we only had a WordCamp last year. And so the Meetup has been running since 2014. In 2014 was one of the first WordCamps in Switzerland itself. And it was in Zurich, which is about an hour away from Bern. And I did that so that we could have a bit of advertising at the end of the WordCamp. But we didn't really notice too much growth from the WordCamp itself. It was just people finding it out, seeing it on meetup.com and things, or Googling it, and then coming along. And last year then with the introduction of the Meetup or the events dashboard, that we've noticed a larger increase in numbers. Ours was just the opposite. We were kind of like, we had a handful of meetups. We had the WordCamp Tampa, the very first one, and then it was like kaboom. We had like meetups all the time, and then like it ramped up into the next WordCamp, and then we had a drop off. So because they were focused on organizing WordCamp and not focused on organizing meetups. And that's the situation we're in at present, is that we have WordCamp organizers, but those were always our official meetup people because they hit our territories. We had kind of like Kathy does, where you've got different suburbs of the city create the different meetup areas, and we have a different little meetup area for each one of those particular city areas across Tampa Bay. And those are the ones organizing those meetups. And if they're not organizing those meetups, no meetups are happening. So I'm in the same boat that I think Kathy and some of the others are. We're trying to get additional co-organizers.
I'll kind of add to that, since you mentioned how we do it in Atlanta. We also have about a lot of meetups around the metro area. The advantage that we have is we're all good friends. So if I go on vacation, I don't have an official, put that in air quotes, co-organizer to my meetup, but I can send a message to one of the other local meetups and say, can you cover for me? Because we meet on different dates, and we're very careful not to schedule on top of each other. So when April goes out, she sends me a note, says, can you cover me? I said, sure. I leave. I say, Brad, can you cover me? And we trade off along the way. So even though most of us don't technically have a co-organizer, we work as if we are each other's co-organizer. And our WordCamp Atlanta, which is in 2 weeks, maybe 3, are the organizing team. The majority of them facilitate a meetup group. So that gives you a backstory, whether you wanted it or not.
So,
Yeah,
well, we have a new person join us, Karen Arnold, who was on two of our earlier roundtables. And we had a kind of an introduction question. Are you planning a birthday party, a 15th anniversary WordPress party in your area?
When is that?
Aha!
Obviously I'm
May
not.
27th, and I'm gonna go and pick up the post from Andrea from the Make blog and share it in the chat window. Yeah, once your question back, you were intrigued by the topic of it, and the last time we talked. So, do you have organizers, and how did you find them?
Okay, so I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Our meetup community has gone through a lot of different organizers. The one common denominator has been me. For a while, I sort of faded into the background, and another woman in the community stepped forward to kind of keep things going. But you know, I have to say that's one area that we really struggle with. The current group of organizers are people who were active in planning the most recent WordCamp. But we all have, you know, we've had meetings where we're all really honest with each other about how none of us have a lot of time to really work on this. So we've been trying really hard to keep in communication in Slack. We have a Slack channel where we kind of we have the schedule of upcoming events, and we just try to make sure that we're all throwing out the things that we see that need to get done, and everybody's taking the pieces that they feel like they're able to do. But as far as, you know, that's a real struggle that we have, because we all know that we have limited time and we have limited attention, and we don't necessarily want to be organizers forever and ever. How do we find new ones? You know, beyond talking to people in the meetup community about it, but you know, I'm sure you all have been there. That's hard to get people to say, yeah, I'll do this thing.
And I had that. I started one meetup. It was not a WordPress meetup, but similar kind of concept, with actually starting out with a co-organizer. I didn't want to start it without having a second person there. But after 2 years, that co-organizer moved away. So up to that point, we were just kind of taking turns, or kind of just doing it together. But with knowing that the person moved away, we kind of delegated. We kind of looked at what all needs to be done, put a list together, and then send out notices to the meetup or to a smaller group of regular person, and said, well, we need somebody who greets. Yeah, we need somebody to make sure that we have, that's one with food. The meetup, the WordPress meetup doesn't have food. But, so the food is always a bigger problem. Yeah, we kind of organize the food, the drinks. And then, set up the room. So we have these tasks, and then I do 2 calls pretty much out to the group and say, okay, who wants to do that? Are you available? And then I'll take a list, and what's not available or who's not, what position is not set, I'll just kind of jump in. And I'm sometimes do the MC. But I think what Ulrich did was actually smart to say, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to be out of town. I can't do it. Can somebody else do it? Yeah. And then say, well, if you are, and that's one thing. Another method that I had was for the WordPress meetup that I co-presented with somebody new on a topic. I was not very familiar. I knew something, but we could kind of do co-presenting, like if somebody doesn't know the answer, we have the other one person have the answer, and if not, we put it on the parking lot kind of thing. And then I asked her if she would jump in when I was sick or went out of town, and that worked. The WordPress meetup also has a co-organizer who does only the day So we have 2 meetups. One is, or actually 3 meetups a month. We have bi-weekly coffee, work together, come in with your problems, we solve it, kind of coffee at the coffee shop, and then a monthly regular meeting with a speaker. And the coffee shops are in Fort Myers, or the coffee meeting, Coffee Clutch in Fort Myers. So it's about 40 miles away. And the monthly meeting is now in Naples. So we kind of branch out similar to what Jim did. But it's a struggle, and you're right. I think it can only come from the people that are there, look at them and see what their interest is, and then do it on a person-to-person basis. I don't think there is a silver bullet there. I think it's a relationship thing that you kind of, and who is more, also look at those that are not the loudest. Yeah, there might be introverts, but you can, I'm an introvert. Yeah, and everybody laughs at me, but I kind of, but those that are not saying anything, they just don't say anything because they're not asked. And the asking part is actually the more important thing.
Well, I know at our last meetup that we just had, we do like an Ask Us Anything meetup, which is our crowdfunding kind of like solve a problem type discussion type meetup. And we had a person on that one who specifically talked about, he was like going, well, I scheduled these dates at the library and then I got no help. And I was like going, you didn't communicate with us. And had you communicated with us, I would have happily put your stuff on the thing. But you got to realize if you want to lead something, that means you got to lead it. And we'll help you in any way we possibly can. And I brought this up at our last meetup. I sat there and said, if you want to do something, if you want to start having a meetup at a library or at a specific location, or you want to do like a co-working meetup, let me know and I'll make you a calendar organizer. You put the thing on the calendar and folks will show if they want interest, and if they show interest, then it'll be on the calendar. And that's kind of how that'll work. But you have to make that step. It's like, that's kind of, to me, that's kind of the necessary step that has to happen as an organizer, is you have to organize something.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, I hate to put it that way, but it's true. It's like you have to take the responsibility to say, okay, you want to do that? Here, have a calendar. Go ahead and post something, find out the venue, go for it. If you need questions answered, if you need paperwork, if you need anything of that nature, I can get that for you. But you have to ask and you have to organize. So, and I think it's that whole, isn't there like a blurb that we get from WordPress that's actually put on our meetup? That's, as a thing about scheduling a meeting and what is a meeting?
Yeah, and we were talking about that with the redesign of Meetup. All those pages where all that information was stored has actually gone away, and we have been quite vocal about it, but it's not. It's just not happening. How far out do you actually plan the topics of your meetups?
I do 2 weeks.
4 months?
Yeah, 2 months.
Yeah.
2 months. Yeah.
How about you, Ulrich? How far out?
We're quite far. I mean, I've got all of the events on repeat. Like we do the fourth Thursday of the month. So those are automatically created. And then we just have to sort of work out what topic do we want to do. And so I think, like I mentioned the first time, we have a whole list of topics on our website. And at the end of every meetup, we try to discuss them and try to work out what is the interest and is anyone willing to give a talk on any of these subjects. And then sometimes, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do too. But yeah, so it's hard to find somebody to step up to the plate when it's not a topic they are interested in, or when they have to come up with a topic as well. I find it easier to do the asks, kind of, okay, these are the topics. Who has ideas on who the speakers are? Does somebody want to facilitate that? Have you ideas for panels or something like that? And get the conversation going like that, as Ulrich said. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah.
Well, and those I think
What?
almost you have to treat like a speaker wrangler, just like you do with a WordCamp, where you basically have to have a form somewhere that allows people to actually suggest topics or suggest that they want to speak. And then that allows you to get a pool of people that you can pull from. We're in that boat right now. I've got to heavily promote that we need speakers again.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wanted to, we have a question on the chat.
Thank you. I was just going to go in there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. You got it. Okay, cool. I'll let you have it.
You can do it.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
The question was about what is the best method for communicating between group organizers to get timely responses? We have a Slack chat for our entire Tampa Bay meetup area. And that's kind of how we configured ours, because Slack's cheap and free and it's not hard to configure that. But if you're in one of those kind of situations where you are a calendar organizer, then, and you can actually, communicate with the venue directly, then that's a little different. Like ours, I have one venue and it has very specific days, and I'm the primary contact for it with one person as a backup contact. And they know they can get to us through Slack, and I also have the email address of the person noted in our website.
Yeah. So, Kathy, how do you communicate with your organizers? Kathy, do you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've got an unstable Wi-Fi, and I'm
okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. We have a Atlanta Slack channel, so that encompasses a lot of people, and it's tied to our WordCamp Atlanta. That's how it got started, but it has become the hub of communication for most of us. One of the things that I like about Slack is you can certainly open up a conversation among the broader community, and then you can also directly contact the organizers of the other meetups. Kind of touching too on the way that we feel our presentations. Each of our meetups has kind of a different focus or methodology, and on occasion there is a topic that is of such great interest that we invite that speaker. Maybe they show up in one meetup that's a couple of miles away on a particular day, and then I invite them to show up at my meetup either on a different month or something. Because certainly not everybody goes to all of the meetups across Metro Atlanta. And that kind of helps us divide the responsibility, or the burden, if you will, of filling out a topic calendar.
That's pretty smart.
We can't hear you, Pascal.
That's pretty smart too. That's what Birgit did. She actually asked me to come down and talk in Naples, which is giving me an opportunity to force one of my other people to lead the meetup this month in the middle of the month.
We have Slack as well. We sort of piggyback on a local New Mexico tech community Slack, which I don't think is really necessarily ideal. There's a lot of stuff in there that your typical WordPress, meetup attender would not, would be a little intimidated by, but that's just not a thing I've been worried about fixing now. But in terms of getting communication between organizers, I can be a little persistent. So if there's something that needs to happen, I mean, the best thing about Slack is that you can mention people. And, if I'm in there and I see that they're green, it's like, hey again. Like there's just stuff that has to get done, right? And I mean, within reason, obviously everybody's got jobs and they're all doing other things, but sometimes you just got to push things forward and get stuff done. So I just bug people a lot, which actually brings me back to a question I have about getting organizers. Is that for me, the main issue with getting organizers, I guess I frame it in the sense that, like, if I were to no longer want to organize the WordPress community in Albuquerque at all, like if I were to completely leave, I think about organizers in that sense, that I would like to have somebody who would take over to that level. And I find that extremely difficult. There's a lot of.
I totally agree with you there, because my sister, who I want to actually move near because her family is growing and I just love them to death, they're nowhere near where I am right now. And I've been thinking about moving out that way. And the exact same thing, I'm like going, what would happen to my St. Pete meetup if I left? And that's why I'm really focusing this year on trying to build more little satellite people that can either take on, maybe this person wants to do beginner meetup stuff at the library in, Largo, and maybe this person wants to do, tech stuff at their agency, and maybe this person wants to do, and that's kind of what I want to make sure is that I can find other people that are willing to satellite and really run with it.
Yeah,
Sure.
now we have a few new people coming in, so I just wanted to welcome you, Pascal and Anastasios. Pascal, just briefly tell us where you're at, what's your meetup, and how you would address the hit by a bus scenario that Jim just put before us to discuss. Do you want to start, Pascal?
Yeah, no problem. Hi, so Pascal Kazir. I'm originally Belgian, but I moved about 12 years ago to Italy, so that's both in Europe. And
thank you.
So but just to make sure that everybody understands, okay. The meetup, in fact, was already started when I arrived here, but was at a lower, I'm not going to say lower level, but they did some things every 6 months. They organized something and so on. Then they restarted with a certain number of people, and at that moment I joined, in fact. So it was very nice. Then we had, again, that was last year, a drop where there was nothing in 6 months because 2 admins left. There were only 2 admins that were staying. That was Lisa and myself, in fact, for WordPress Parma, where I am here in Italy. And then Lisa, okay, lucky for her, she got a baby, so that was very nice for her. But as I clearly stated, I'm not going to do it on my own. So we spread into the Facebook group, and there I'm coming away from Slack that everybody is using. Okay, in our Facebook group we had about 150 or 130 users that were there, and nobody stood up to become admin. So I just stopped. And now, less than a month ago, we restarted. So we are 4 admins, and now we are getting back onto the track of organizing some meetups and so on. So I'm very happy. Because if tomorrow I got hit by a bus, I get hit by a bus, at least there are other admins. Now, we try to split the different tasks because there are people that need to talk to people in Italy to come over and become and be a speaker. Okay, so we are looking for the people that can give talks, and that I leave to the other ones. I'm not native Italian myself, so I prefer that amongst them they come up with the best speakers. Of course, the 4 of us, we discuss the topics like, okay, next month or the month after, let's do a talk on SEO. Then we have a local company here that has set up their own website. Let's take them in, and they just show the plugins that they use to come to the website that they make and so on. 2 of the 4 will take care of the website, and I'm doing with the 4th person then. So 2 of us are doing more on the administrative side, making sure that the venue is okay, that we pay for the venue, that we get the keys before getting in and so on. Closing the door correctly afterwards, and making sure that on meetup.com everything is well organized and the meetups are set. So we try amongst the 4 of us now to split the different tasks, but also to make sure that at least 2 persons can do the same job. That's so. Sorry, I missed the very first part of the meeting, so I'm trying to just hook into the questions that Birgit asked and that I heard around. But anyway, I'll try to come up with more things later in the chat here.
Well, thank you, Pascal, for joining us. Anastasios, do you have I think you joined us first 4 weeks ago. And how is your meetup organizing going? And I think was it Crete in Greece? Oh, and
Pretty
Crete,
correct, but not
Yeah.
a month ago. It was roughly 2 weeks ago.
Oh, all right.
I just missed last week's. So we have sort of the opposite problem, because we started out with 10 people, and after we had our meetup here, our Zoom call 2 weeks ago, I was more active to check out where they are and how we can move things more actively, stuff like that. And the thing is, I wasn't getting much responses, really. We have a Slack channel that's been in, how do we call that, spider webs? Yeah, so it's getting old, unused. We also have a Facebook group there. We also have one for just the organizers. That's where I publish stuff. And out of the 9 people are registered there, only 5 of them had answers. So we have the opposite problem. I'm here to listen again. So mainly that, get knowledge and transfer it.
Yes, yeah.
So are you having problem getting people to actually come to the meetup, or are you having problems getting people to actually be interested in the meetup? Or
Okay, quickly and roughly what it is. We had a last meetup sometime in the fourth quarter of 2017, and then it started to just be on pause. So we even received an email from
Courtney.
that one.
Yeah.
Thanks for help, Birgit. So that email was like, are you guys still there? Are you up for meetups? What's going on? And roughly at the same period, we had a person asking, could we have presentations or discussions around Gutenberg or other SEO maybe tips and, parts of everyday life, I would say. And other members from our organizers group answered in a way that, okay, look, you have to be patient until we publish something and blah, 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 which is going to take some time because we're busy doing other stuff. And I was like, no, what if he wants to be someplace and he wants to be there, as an organizer himself? Why don't we give him that opportunity? That's not up to us. He wants to participate. And we're still there.
Yeah, good.
So apologies, I'm not complaining. I'm really looking for answers because things are working out better for you guys. So that's it.
Yeah. So Karen, I don't think we have really good answers for you. But I think it helps when you just kind of announce that this is your last meetup and stick to the plan. Yeah, there might be a month that nothing happens. There might be a second month that nothing happens. But yeah, there is people want to. I think that's the same idea that the community team is also doing with WordCamps, where they say one lead organizer can only lead for 2 years, and then there needs to be somebody else there. And even in the risk that there won't be a WordCamp for a particular year until somebody else steps up to the plate.
Yeah. That kind of broke our WordCamps, unfortunately.
I don't think so. I think what it actually
did. For our rule, it did. For WordCamp Tampa, that particular choice. Then the community wasn't ready to organize a meetup. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that was the problem, is that our organizing team was so focused on WordCamps, they stopped focusing on meetups and they stopped focusing on community. And that was the biggest issue. There was a divide between organizers and community, and we were doing WordCamps and we weren't focusing on community. And you have to do both.
Yeah. I think to be clear, I'm not considering stepping down from organizing.
No, totally get it.
Yeah. but it's something that, sometimes, like, if you want a break, like, or something like that, right? Yeah. But yeah, I think that is you've hit on a really interesting point. And I think that we struggle with that here as well. It is easier to find a group of people who are happy to work together on a WordCamp than it is to find a group of people who want to work for a year or two or whatever on a series of events that, when put together, are a WordCamp.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I feel like WordCamps, I love WordCamps, right? But they're so much more exciting. And really the focus for what we want to do to, like, make the community continue, help the community to continue growing in our areas, is this consistent monthly or bi-monthly or whatever kind of interaction, as opposed to this one splash at the end of the year that that, yeah, is really great for everybody, but it doesn't do that much, I think, it's like a celebration as opposed to the consistent growth that happens throughout the year. Yeah, that's we should do a call about that.
Yeah, yeah, a difference between the two and how to set up the energy level going. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's also the different way of people kind of committing themselves. Okay, I'm going to do WordPress for a long time, and I'm not new to this. I can teach other people on an ongoing basis. I think that's the philosophy that Jim has, kind of, putting those out and make them educational events. But on the other hand, is it also kind of producing themselves in as a WordCamp organizer and introducing kind of a status in the community, elevate their own status in the community? And I think all this might be playing a role in certain areas. I have run WordPress, WordUp. I come up with new names for all these kind of things. I said MeetPress, WordUp. So I ran a monthly WordPress Q&A meeting just for nonprofit, and was before I got involved to the community. And then I started to read about these WordCamps, and then I kind of applied for doing a WordCamp. Well, we could do one for nonprofits, and not knowing that it needs to be a little bit more inclusive. So, and then somebody wrote me back and said, well, get involved in your local meetup. And I did. But after I went to actually WordCamps and also speak at WordCamps and looking at my local community, I don't think we're going to organize a WordCamp soon. Yeah. Just because of the engagement level, the people that we have around. Yeah, you need maybe about 10 people to organize a small meetup, WordCamp. Yeah, like with 50, you still need a few people there, yeah, and we don't have them. I don't see them around, and I don't see there is a kind of a desire to have a WordCamp, because we could go to Orlando, which is 3.5 hours away, and some of us went to WordCamp Miami, which is 2 hours away. They do plenty of good stuff there. Yeah. So yeah, Pascal.
We had actually. No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's the same here in Italy. I mean, in Parma, I'm not even using the word WordCamp for Parma. There are WordCamps at 1 hour, 1 hour and a half drive from here. So in Milano, in Bologna, and so on. So there is no need to do an extra one here, and really needing to find those people, because I'm really worried, just like Jim also said, if you would set up a WordCamp, I'm sure people would come and help. But that's not what we need. It's the community, and it's our meetups that we really need to start now. So that's why I don't even want to use the word WordCamp for now here in Parma.
But let me chime in here. My brain is firing on all cylinders, so I need to spit it out so I can move my brain onto something else. I think the secret for community is the depth of relationships. And I'm fortunate because I have the gift of developing relationships. That's what I do. It's who I am. And so I am observant for those quiet voices who come to meetups and WordCamps that are on the fringes. And I have a way of making them feel welcome into whichever arena we are. And I think that is what has helped Atlanta become what Atlanta is. Also, we have a lot of longevity. Our first WordCamp was in 2010, and we had an existing Atlanta meetup that started before we had a WordCamp. The first meetup in Atlanta was in 2008, and it met consistently. We had a WordCamp in 2010. I live in the suburbs, and that existing meetup was in town. I decided to start a meetup out in the suburbs, and that was 2011. So I've been doing it a very, very long time. One of the things that I discovered over this longevity is it never fails when I go to WordCamp and I meet somebody I've not met before. They have never heard of meetups, never. And then there are a whole lot of people who come to our meetups who have never heard of WordCamp. I don't know what the divide is, but it's like there's two different communities. And so I believe that it takes a little bit of both to start to bring people together. But the trick is paying attention to the people who show up. There are a number of people who have told me that they went to a particular meetup in one part of town and did not feel welcome. And it wasn't that they weren't invited, but the topic perhaps was over their head. And so they walked away feeling dumb. And so I think we have to recognize the humanness of the people who cross our threshold and reach out to them, call them by name, learn their name. Again, I know that that's a gift of mine and it doesn't come easy to everybody. Do you use name tags? People want to feel like they belong there. And it's easier then to recruit from the people that you know because they know and like you and they trust that you're interested in their well-being. And that's what's helped us grow over the years. The reason we have so many meetups across the metro Atlanta is because they started in my meetup, and somehow I gave them the confidence that they too could organize a meetup. So in some respects, a lot of the burden is on our shoulders, not in terms of making the meetup happen, but making the people feel confident. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
You bring up some very good points, Kathy. Seriously, you do, because it's about recognizing and noticing. I mean, I know that's why my meetups are successful, because I do communicate with every single person in the room. I make sure that I recognize their names because that's my trick. But I also try to make sure that they introduce each other to each other. But what we've got to do now is like definitely start pulling the shrinking flowers or the shrinking violets out of the corner and let them shine.
Yeah, and Kathy, you brought out a very good point in terms of keeping relationships current. I'm always I'm a very busy most of the time, so I don't want to really add workload to myself, to my own plate, but I think it would be necessary to actually communicate with those who show up at your meetups, between meetups, if you only do them monthly, to just kind of keep in touch and keep on top of mind. And there's a lot of news going on around WordPress, and if you find a way to communicate with the meetup members new things about WordPress, I think then they become more aware of what the community actually is. I haven't figured out the silver bullet for that, but we talked about it a little bit I think it was last week when we talked about do we have email lists or do we use just the meetup member communication, and some of the people that were there actually also do this via Facebook. And I think having a different means of communicating is probably helpful also to feel them part of the community, and out of community comes also serving a community, and that can bring you another set of people who would be interested in getting a little bit more involved over a longer period of time. I think that's why it's so important to do those relationships. Yes. There's a link. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Italy has a complete site where you can look up all meetups and all WordCamps, and Pascal shared it in the chat window. I asked John if he has any follow-up questions from his original question, and doesn't seem to be. But of course, any other question, so we are 14 minutes or 15 minutes before the hour, we can open it up to other questions and kind of discuss about other things if we wanted to. Any other topics that you want to talk about and cover, and you got some good people here. experienced meetup organizers.
I'm curious, what types of topics do you find to be most relevant to your meetup groups? Are they development oriented? Are they user oriented? A combination? I'm just curious.
Karen, do you have an answer for something like that?
Oh, I mean, I have a non-answer really, because we just, like, it's so wide, you know? I can tell you, so currently we've gone to an every other month because of our, you know, organizers being so stretched and stuff. And we are trying to cover a variety, because we know that, I mean, any meetup we have will have like that experience, like you said, Kathy, about someone who walks in and they're like, oh my gosh, that was so over my head. But then we'll have somebody who comes in and says, oh, it was so boring. I totally know all that stuff, you know? So we try to keep kind of a wide range. Like tomorrow, actually, we're having a meetup and we're going to be talking about WooCommerce, but specific, not just WooCommerce, but specific to like setting up certain kinds of extensions that we think people might be interested in. And then we have somebody coming up. This was actually an idea I got from this group, was to talk about Gutenberg in another 2 months. So we're doing kind of a, what is it, how you can get involved in it, and what does it mean for you as like a regular person using your WordPress site and stuff like that. And then we want to have a design oriented one. And then we have, you know, people also want to hear a lot about content, you know, so we're trying to spread those out for the meetups for the rest of the year. We're actually trying to plan them all now so that we have them listed on the meetup site, which is something we've never done before. Planned like the entire year, right? So just try to keep it with a variety. Since we just have the one meetup happening, we want to make sure that people look at it and say, oh, okay, I see that kind of like a user-focused one is coming up, you know, end user kind of one. So that's one I want to sign up to. But if I'm a developer, oh, okay, I guess I won't go to that one. That's fine, right? To just let people know with a lot of advance notice. My preference, this is a long answer, but my preference is to have a focused meetup for all of the various types of user, you know, groups, like a blogging group and a developer group and but that brings us back to the problem where we just don't have enough organizers.
Right. Yeah. Pascal, what are the most successful topics in your area?
Well, I think here it's also a variety of things. I think the SEO one was the most important one, because everybody that has somewhere a small company or what wants to be on page one of Google and Bing and so on. So how can I get there? Also the one on security and performance. So how can I make sure that my site is running well, both on the security side and on the performance side? That was more for developers. But in fact, even if we just take a company that is here and that explains that, look, this is what we bring on our website, and these are the modules that we used, so all the plugins that we used. Also, that is sometimes very important to people in knowing, oh, so you have a Twitter account to publish to Twitter. You don't do anything because you create a post and it publishes automatically. So also those, not going to call them stupid things, but the basic things, some people just don't think of it. So you always need to have a variety of things. On the programming your meetup site, it's an information that we got from somebody in saying, look, if you only during this meetup say what the next one is, you are too late. So you always need to plan at least 2 meetups in a row.
Oh, you're breaking out a bit.
So we can already
lost you for a moment.
Or not? Okay, so you always need to plan at least. Yeah, your internet connection is unstable. Okay, so you always need to plan 2 meetups at least, so that the people block it in their calendar and they know the topic. That was the information we got from at least 2 of the attendees.
Yeah. So does that answer your question, Kathy? We can't hear.
Muted. I'm nodding instead of unmuting myself. It is helpful. One of the advantages, again, because we have so many meetups in our area, we do have, Karen, some of groups that are focused. But I was asking for my own selfish reasons. in terms of to improve my meetup.
Yeah, this year the most successful one of ours was actually a comparison. What are the decisions an e-commerce store owner needs to make when establishing a store? So, and we had Chris Christoph coming in, who, yeah, lucky us, he lives in West Palm Beach and has family on Sanibel Island, so he comes across the pond, across the peninsula, and he compared, okay, these are the things, if you want to sell these kind of things, go to WooCommerce. If you want these kind of things, go to Easy Digital Download. And if you want to do start out and you just want to sell stuff kind of thing, go to Shopify. Yeah. So also not non-WordPress things come into the mix in figuring out what are the decisions. And that was a very successful one. Because he also has a very good material there. So in the meeting itself, we had, I think, about 20 people, which is big for us. But then the links to the slide was actually also very popular. So just to give you a very concrete idea there. All right, any other questions from you? I'm just sharing again in the chat window the session evaluation. This is the last of 4 scheduled March Madness Meetup, WordPress Meetup organizers talk. So it would be really helpful to have your opinion, and if you have other ideas what we should do next, and how we can change the format, that would be really helpful. But any other question, Meetup question, topics? Yes, Anastasios.
Just a quick question. Would you think, any of you, or would you think that a Zoom call like we have now would be like an alternative to, like, worth to explore, maybe, for a meetup? If many people are saying they're struggling with commuting or times and stuff, would it be worth?
Definitely worth trying, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we had one of our meetup organizers actually end up doing that, like a Facebook Live thing. He had 2 people show up at the actual location where he was doing the meetup, and I think he had 2 participants watch it. But I think part of the problem was the fact that he didn't announce it in advance, and far enough in advance. So we have done, as a plugin developer, we have done podcasts, and we used to schedule those on a regular basis, and we actually got pretty good response from that, but we didn't have a Q&A section. And that's one of the things I actually like about that we're doing with this particular roundup, is that I keep wanting to call it, Birgit, I want to call it the WordPress Meetup Roundup. So it's a roundup, but round table, but it's a roundup. So Yeah,
right.
But I honestly think having enough of an advance notice about it would get enough people doing exactly what they're doing right now, where you have advanced questions. Like you said, we're going to be collecting questions for the thing we're going to be doing later on this week. And then we're actually going to be doing the connection at this particular time. So if you want to tune in and either ask questions live or pay attention and get your questions answered, that would be a way to do it. But again, it all comes down to exactly what Pascal said. You have to let people know they're coming. And I think a lot of people like having the back and forth and the in-person questions and answers. But I know for our Ask Us Anything meetups, if I don't go around the room and ask every single person, hey, why are you here tonight? What did you want to learn? What did you not get answered? They don't say a word.
Thank you. Yeah. Any questions, Pascal? Or Karen, or Kathy, or Anastasios?
Well, it's
I
not
was going to comment that I think advance notice is important, and so is consistency, especially in the beginning of a meetup history or revamping it. I'm going to be here no matter what, and then eventually people will start joining. And I just know that because of some other things I'm working on. I'm going to be here, and I hope you'll join me.
Yeah, so we got a question from John Alacron from Oregon. He has, the question is, are there any topics that have little to no interest, that you thought that you put it out there and nobody came? Pascal? Yeah.
Yep. I don't know how many of you know, but I'm in the Polyglots team. So we translate WordPress, okay? Well, don't use that too much at your meetups because people are just not interested. Well, people are interested into translating, but not coming on a meetup to see how to translate, okay? I have been table lead at certain contributors there, days, and there indeed you can talk to people that want to translate, they want to know how it goes and so on. But at the meetup, no. That's one of the things that I would say, don't schedule it. That's not needed.
So if a meetup organizer would be interested in translation because he wants to find out for him or herself, I think the best place to do that is one of the contributor days at WordCamps, because the Polyglot is pretty much, Polyglot team is fairly represented in any of those contributor days, and you get really see how the meat is made, so the sausage is made. Yeah.
No, exactly. And I would also add that our yearly global WordPress translation day that we organize, for instance, last year I was the lead organizer last year, and we had 70 local meetups that came together to translate. We had, I don't know how many RSVPs, I think it was some hundreds, I should recheck the statistics, but at that point you really get people together. If it's dedicated and if it's in a whole group together with people around the world, then it was really great. But organizing just a meetup for, okay, let's talk about translation, that didn't really work on our side.
And any other have bombed meetup topics?
My ethical pricing one only had 2 people attend, but so and it was only like 15 minutes long, so I did it twice. And one person showed up, they got to see it, they left. The other person came in like at the very last minutes, so I repeated it.
So,
yeah.
Oh, poor Jim.
Yeah. It's no big deal. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. We've always had the issue is like when I first started the St. Pete meetup, all of the talks were developer, entrepreneur, client oriented, and now that we're in the dashboard, I'm getting lots of beginners and users and themes and SEO and stuff like that, and those aren't topics I can teach on. So I'm having to actually reach back out again to our community to, I need volunteers to teach and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting.
All right. I think we have time for one more question and a quick answer round if you have one.
Are we doing this next month as well?
That is still open. We haven't scheduled anything. Next month, I'm actually traveling a lot, so I can't push it. So we kind of need to discuss it on the community team. I think we got now 4 sessions that we got a very good picture of it. So we definitely need to write up some of the takeaways and then see what else can be done better or more regularly and who wants to be involved in that. It's like everything else, you can step up and do something test-wise, but then how are you able to sustain it, and how can the processes be a little bit easier? Yeah. Karen, you wanted to say something? Nope. Oh, wait, all right. Okay. So, I want to leave it like that. You have been awesome. It's wonderful to meet you this way and talk to Italy and Crete and Atlanta and Albuquerque and, well, Jim in St. Petersburg. And I hope you do you have a wonderful time organizing all the WordPress local communities. And we'll stay in touch. Don't forget to fill out the evaluation form. And we will have that meeting online on YouTube. We will advertise it out so you can find it on the Slack channel as well as on Twitter, on the WordCamp Twitter handle. Thank you very much for coming, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for organizing this, Birgit.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.